Welcome to my channel, Sarenades. My name is Sarah, and today I'm going to show you my first speed build. I thought it'd be fun to talk through this with you guys, give you a little bit more behind the scenes or context to what I was doing. But also, since it is my first one, I apologize if I spin the camera too much. I hope that this makes no one dizzy or give you motion sickness. And also with that, please give me tips, pointers, let me know what you like, didn't like. I would love to hear from you. So let's just jump right in. For this build, I was winging it. I did not have a plan going into it. I pretty much pressed record and was like, let's see what happens. I thought maybe it would be interesting to look back and see if I have kind of a style I always go to when building, like, you know, starting with the interior, the exterior. I don't know if that's the case. For this house, as you kind of saw, I started with the floor plan and then jumped back out to finish the roof, windows, paint, all of that. And then I jumped to the inside. I started here with the kitchen. And again, since I mentioned that I didn't have a plan going into it, you'll see me kind of experiment with layout. So over here, I first started with the kitchen kind of in this nook. I decided to switch it around in the end. I knew I wanted a big island and I wanted a big table. The kitchen that I made here has a pretty big space, so I wanted to really utilize that. So I ended up switching things over to the other side, which I did this because I like to think about gameplay when I'm building. So normally I always like to have the half walls up because that's how I play for gameplay as well as build. I like to keep everything visible, easy accessible, like when your Sims are in the house that you can just kind of see everything they're doing is my thought process. So long story short, that's why I moved the kitchen over on this wall instead. And then I found these cabinets, the teal ones, and I loved them. So that kind of inspired me to change the whole color palette here. So I go for a white gray theme and then have my bright teal cabinets be like the pop of color. This corner, I started to have it be just a sitting area. Ended up changing that later, I think for the better. I mess around with my dining room table a little bit. I kind of jump around, I notice, throughout this build, but at least I'm still in the kitchen, so I'm still kind of working through that space. I noticed after watching this build that I would go through and kind of pull pieces that I would see in the moment that I knew I would want to use later. So you'll kind of see throughout the build that I have things kind of just everywhere sometimes. So in this corner, I kind of finalize the sitting area and then just totally delete it, and then end up making it a coffee station, which I definitely like better. I think it was a good choice. I play around here with the shelves and the spacing. I get some of the coffee bags, mugs. I end up pulling in one of my CC art pieces too, that is 2 coffee cups. It seemed like the perfect spot with it being a coffee counter, so you'll see that like about here, yep. And so that's one thing, I end up shifting this around. As you can see, depending with the picture frame that I used, the glare can be pretty intense, which in some cases I feel like it makes the painting more realistic, like there is glass there and sometimes it's just too much and bothers me. So as you'll see, I kind of shift that around a little bit just because I don't like that glare, but I do like that coffee section, so I am glad that I messed around with it so much. And then over here, so I have some of my favorite items from Cool Kitchen. I always use the cookbooks, the dry rack, the cutting boards there. I just love those. And I really wanted this build to feel open, so I play around with a half wall so that, you know, you walk into the living room, but you can see everything basically right away. Do a few more final touches over here. I wanted to play around with the different artwork here, so I did want initially kind of a collage look. I ended up tweaking it. I go back and forth with having just one piece versus many. I ended up on just having one. And then here you go. So I end up shifting that painting completely to the other wall. But hey, no glare now, so I'm happy. And I think that it fills the space more having the cabinets be an L shape. So I jump over to the bathroom and you'll see in the background that I already have a bedroom done, but I did not like it, so that will completely be changed. And then here for the bathroom, I play around with this a lot too because I wanted to kind of do something I don't normally do, and I ended up really liking the wall divider. And so I kind of use that as to make the bathtub a little bit more private. It's not the best for gameplay view, but I think it turned out really cool. And then as you'll see in the back, I have another one of my CC art pieces. And that kind of inspired the color theme for this room. Obviously I liked that it was teal because I have that color scheme in the kitchen. But then I found this really pretty pink tile for the walls, and then I like how that looks with the painting, and so then I pulled in the orange and the yellow to kind of match that. I mean, it ended up being pretty bold colors, but I kind of liked it. It was kind of funky, something a little different. And I think that's what I've just been trying to do lately, is try things I haven't tried before, like use new objects. So then jumping over to the office space here, I spent a lot of time on the office space. I actually cut out a lot of this because you guys didn't need to see me tweaking it so much, but I still kept some in so you can, you know, see how I experimented and how it came to be what it was in the end. For the office space, I really wanted to have like a big L table, so I played around with that a little bit. I wanted it to mimic the windows here. I love those windows. I love how big they are, so I wanted to just play up that area. And then I messed around with actually having 2 computers. I wanted it to feel like 2 monitors in a sense. So I did that trick where you have the computer on a table and then shrink the table and hide it. So I played around with that a little bit to find the right fit. And I really was thinking that this shelf here, like the cabinets would be perfect there. In the end, I kind of switched it up. I still didn't really know what I was going to do with this space, so that's why I think it was I was a little bit all over the place with colors and kind of picking how I wanted things to be. Which I guess is half the fun, just kind of watching the thought process here. And then I started playing around with the corner a little bit. I wanted it to be a cozy space. So it's your office, but it's also like space that you'd want to hang out, or, you know, if you get up from your desk, you have one more spot to be. So I was playing around with adding a couch. And I think the Snow Escape couch was perfect because it's not too big and it's bigger than a chair. So it filled the space really well. So as you can see, I messed around with my my table here a little bit more. I really liked that shelf for a while since you can add more clutter. I ended up deleting it anyways, just to keep it simple, but I still think it was a good solution. I might try it again in a different build. And then all of the tweaking for those freestanding objects, I can spend so much time doing that because you just want them to be exactly in the right spot. So as you can see, I kind of tweak and adjust and tweak and adjust. You know, you just have to make it feel right. So then here, jumping back to the bedroom, as you can see, totally different. I wanted to play with the 2 tones for this bedroom. I wanted it to just be simple, but kind of cozy, you know, so I added a lot of plants over here by the mirror space. I worked on a small shelf above the bed, which I think turned out nice. So it's just simple, but feels really comfortable, I think. But yeah, so here's my shelf. Added some more greenery up top. I've never used that light before, and I felt like it was perfect, so I really like how that turned out. So funny, I wanted this cart to work so bad. I tried in the bedroom and in the office, ended up not using it at all, but I definitely tried to make it work, so you'll kind of see that again. But then here, I love these wooden nightstands. I think they're like the big blocks. I think that they're so cool. They have a large surface space, so it's excellent for clutter. And it just was like such a cool natural tone and vibe in here, I think. And then I messed around with the color of the walls a little bit more. I ended up landing on the gray, and I really like that. And then I kind of moved back over to the hallway. I didn't want my hallway to feel too empty, so I have kind of just this like little corner with plants and you know, the table and a little bit of clutter. Played with that different wall texture I've never used before. And then you'll see, so there's that card again. I'm trying to make it work in one spot or another. I've never used it and I've always wanted to use it. Ended up adding in the guitar here. So now this room is like your office, art space, reading nook, you know, kind of all things creative. And then here for the shelf, so this is like right when you walk in, it's kind of the entry living room space. And I've been trying to amp my clutter game, so I spent more time on my shelves. As you'll see, I kind of do in a few more spots too, but I just think it adds so much detail to your house. It makes it just feel so much more alive, kind of all that clutter. So I played around a lot with it here. I was searching forever for that painting cart set, and I finally found it. So that polished off my office space. And then over here in the living room, I really liked using the bold colors. So I have like the peachy fireplace, the plum chairs, the mint couch. Like I just loved all the color blocks. I played around with that for a bit. Again, more kind of surface clutter design space for this fireplace. Yeah, and that's one thing too I've noticed when I'm searching through the objects and I find something I know I want to use elsewhere in the build, I'll just jump over there and add it. So I don't know, is that something that you guys do too? You can kind of see here, I do that throughout the house, kind of final touches. I'm bouncing around everywhere, kind of tweaking. Realized after the fact that I didn't add my dresser into the bedroom, so I had to kind of readjust here. As you'll see, like this table was in the bedroom and now is in the hallway. And I think that's still nice. I mean, it fills the hallway a little bit more. And then here in the living room, a couple more of my CC art pieces above the fireplace. Lately I've been doing this where I use the smaller cabinets for the kitchen as the TV stand. I like that they're a little bit smaller, and since they're not a standard table, you can add clutter onto them easier. And then this paranormal shelf was like the perfect color. It has the cutest plant on it. So I haven't used it before, so I used it here and I really liked how that turned out. I felt like it fit perfectly in the room. So I messed around with clutter a little bit more, and then I jumped over to the other corner and I added in some yarn baskets and tried to make that be just one more additional cozy space specific to knitting. So it's like that chair is the knitting chair. Made my own yarn basket over there. Played around with that a little bit. I ended up switching the chair. I do like this chair looking back on it, but I ended up using the Snowy Escape chairs. I just feel like those rugs over the seat really makes it feel cozy. And finally, I moved to the outside. Again, the outside is still pretty simple. I've been trying to make more interesting backyards and work on my landscaping, but this build, it was still a little simple. So I'm working on just a small patio, then I start working on the landscaping, trying out a little bit of the landscape paint, and then I created kind of this unique shape that I wanted to enclose the backyard space in. I ended up pulling in just the really small fence to kind of tie it in, not be too in your face, but just to kind of polish off that area. And then I pulled in the I don't know, hot springs pool or whatever the formal name is for it, but I really wanted to use this. I thought that it just looks so cool, and so I wanted to kind of add in more trees, make it feel a little bit more private. I played around with the landscaping paint one more time and just did a really simple plant look here. So I had a couple plants that I used, just kind of spaced them out just to, I don't know, spice it up a little bit. I wanted to have that fountain and a couple chairs. I thought that it just, adds to it, makes it feel a little bit more cozy. I do some more of my final touches here on the patio. And the exterior, I had some ivy in a couple spaces around. And then I move over to the front and I take that same plant treatment that I did in the backyard to the front yard, just to kind of keep it all consistent. And then I do a few more final touches on my porch. I add some plants, some lights, that sort of thing, just to kind of finalize my build. That really sums it up. Like I said, this was my first one, so I hope to continue to get better at these, not move the camera around so much. Like I said, please let me know tips, tricks, anything that you want. Leave those comments down below, and thank you so much for watching this and being here.